Hello guys, my name is Arash Haddad. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about Linux server management. 8 essential Linux server management that might sound really scary to manage your Linux server, but it doesn't have to be anymore. Today I will show you 8 essential steps every beginner should know to manage their Linux server with confidence. By the end of this video, you will be running your server like a pro. These steps are really important before you deploying your web application or your website using cloud services. So before we go to each step, I want to introduce you to my site pycoin24.com, where I mostly write everything I create video about. After you watching video, you can also visit my site and use this code from here. As you can see, each step are here. Also more blogs are here, you can read more, and for example some of them are under paid members because they are more advanced, but mostly they are free. So guys, first command, how to first step accessing the server using SSH. So you can search what is SSH, and as you can see, the Secure Shell Protocol is a cryptographic network protocol for operating network services securely over an unsecured network. Its most notable applications are remote logging and command line execution. So guys, we should use SSH to connect to our server using, for example, terminal app in Mac OS devices. So first you need to connect to server, securely logging to your server by typing SSH space your server username @ your server IP address and your server port, because you may bought your server just few seconds ago. Your port is default and is 22, and you don't need to write -p and your port. Then you hit enter. Then you should enter your password. Maybe it asks you to for fingerprint write yes or no. For that you should write yes, then enter your password for accessing to your server. Mostly you can get your password in your VPS provider panel. So after we connect to our server, as you can see, let me clear, we go to the second step, and it's really important when you buy a new server, is to keep your server up to date. Updates help your server improve security and stability. Use these commands on your Ubuntu or Debian Linux operating system by sudo space apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y. You can write on a separate line or using two and to run this command together, and this -y answer yes to everything needed during installing these upgrades on your server. So when we write -y, it means yes, update and install these update packages on my server. And after, when you click on this, it may take, because my server is up to date, I don't run it, but when you run it, it may take around 10 minutes to get finished, but it's really important and you should never skip this step. Then after you finished your updating server, we go to a step number 3, where creating new user come into place. You don't always use root. You shouldn't always use root. It's better to create a new user with add user and then your username, for example Arash. Okay, then you click enter. This command keeps your server safer. You don't have to log into your server with root admin access every time. Then after creating your new user, it's good to give your new user sudo privilege. You can give your new user some root availability capability to run some commands. When you log into your server with creating your user, you can add your user some sudo privileges by running user mode -a big G space your user name, for example Arash for me. And guys, as I said, you can watch these commands here. So as you can see here, we should use sudo Arash. Okay, it means give Arash sudo away capability as a root user. So this is the number 4 out of 8 essential commands for Linux server management. Let's dive into step number 5. Very important, firewall setup. Security is a must. Set up a firewall on Ubuntu. UFTW makes this easy. We use UFTW on our Linux server for activating firewall on our server, so we can decide which traffic, which network can come to our server or go out of our server. By running sudo ufw space allow, for example open ssh, this is one of the port. This is the port, for example, we use to connecting to our server using ssh. If this port be unavailable, we can't connect to our server using ssh. This is really important to have activated this port. Or anything, for example you build a web application which is running on some random port, for example 6498, you can write it 6498 to activate it. After that, we should enable UFW, sudo UFW enable. We enable it. Then after that, we can check our firewall status to see which ports are available, which ports are, for example, not available, have some in future you will be more familiar with these firewall commands by running sudo ufw status. When you hit enter, you will see your status of current ports. This is very important. Step number 6 is disabling root user. So after you create your new user and give them the sudo privilege, it's better to disable your root user. So it's very good to avoid brute forcing attacks to your server, where Attackers try to access to your server using root user. For example, they want to connect your server, they will write root @ your server address and then hit enter and then try different password to connect your server. But with disabling root user, you take one another security steps towards safer online live. How we can do this? By running sudo nano etc sshd config. When you hit enter with nano, this is a text editor on Linux. We give a sudo privilege, then a nano we call the text editor, and then this is the address where our ssh config file exists on our server. When you hit enter, you see your ssh config. On that place there is permit root logging, which text is yes. You should change the text from yes to no and then save this file. After that, after you change the permit root logging to no, then you will run sudo systemctl restart ssh. This will restart the ssh and the new config will be available to ssh. And now when you try to access to your server with root, you will get errors and you can't access to your server. Let's go to number 7. Step number 7. Rebooting and restarting your server safely. At some point, maybe after you update and upgrade your server, you may need to restart your server. You may need to completely restart your server. You can do this by running sudo reboot, and when you hit enter, your SSH connection will drop, and it may take around 10 minutes to your server be accessible again because you completely restart your server. But if you want to restart a specific service, you don't want to restart all of your server, you have some app or service you want to restart specifically that service, you can run sudo systemctl restart. For example, our service is reverse proxy nginx. Okay, we run sudo systemctl restart nginx. If your server is running through systemctl, for example, if your service is running through docker, you should run different commands. After that, we get to last step, monitoring our resources, monitoring our RAM and storage, our CPU usage. It's very important to keep eye on performance. There are some tools which show you these analytics real time. One of them are htop. When you hit htop, as you can see, it will show you each app is using memory, how much CPU is using, for example, each location, addresses, and other that is df.h. You can check how much space each directory is using on your server. And last one is free-h. You can see how much memory your server has or how much memory is used and is available, and for example how much swap memory you have accessible on your server. And that's it, guys. 8 essential steps for each Linux server management, each sysadmins, system admins who want to begin this journey. They should use these 8 Linux commands before deploying their own application. Guys, subscribe to my channel, leave the comment, tell me your idea. If you like these videos, tell me so I can create more videos about these tech. Thank you. Bye.